listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.
What Clearco is doing after rapid growth and expansion is finding new products. When we interact with customers, we have one product today, but sometimes we talk to them and it spurs ideas. You're like, oh, wait a second, what if we did this? Maybe it has different payback features or a longer tenor so they have capital for a longer time.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Biz Leader. Welcome to another episode of the Business Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Edwin Frondozo, and today we are featuring a special episode from our Future Narrator mini-series recorded live at the Collision Conference in Toronto, Canada. In this podcast mini-series, we explore the future of leadership, innovation, and storytelling with visionary leaders who are not just designing products, but are creating entire new worlds and markets. Joining me is Dr. Paul Newton, and together we'll be speaking with Andrew Curtis. He is the CEO of Clearco. In our conversation, Andrew will discuss Clearco's pioneering role in providing non-dilutive, revenue-based financing to e-commerce businesses. We explore how Clearco supports entrepreneurs without requiring them to give up equity or provide collateral. It's a very unique approach that has positioned Clearco as a leader in the field since 2018. Andrew will also share insights on the company's strategic focus following a period of rapid expansion and subsequent retraction, emphasizing the importance of decisive discipline, rigor, and sustainable growth. We'll delve into the impact of new technologies like AI on the funding industry and Andrew's view on effective leadership, particularly the value of clear, transparent communication with employees during challenging times. So without further ado, here we go. We're now speaking with Andrew Curtis, CEO of Clearco. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for dropping in. Andrew, I'm just going to jump right in. Can you share what problem is Clearco solving today?
Sure. So Clearco was created to fund working capital to e-commerce businesses. So we provide or advance capital to direct-to-consumer e-commerce businesses. Typically, these are founders or entrepreneurs who are growing businesses, and we're doing it in a way that is non-dilutive, so they don't have to give up equity in order to get this capital. We created this category. It's revenue-based finance, and we did that back in 2018. We were the first ones to do it. The brand is extraordinarily powerful and strong, and we pride ourselves, and really our North Star at Clearco is supporting these entrepreneurs as they're trying to find ways to grow their business, and they need capital to do that.
Yeah, you know what? Some of the keywords that was buzzing in my ear as you explain that, and this is benefit for those who are listening, is the non-diluted funding. Can you share a bit more of that and how that works?
Of course.
Yeah.
So non-dilutive funding is shorthand for saying you don't have to give up ownership or equity in your business. So I think one of the challenges any small business owner, whether it's a DTC e-com or otherwise, is they have a great idea for a product, a service. They need capital to fund the growth of their business. And in order to attract that capital, often someone's asking for a piece of the ownership of the business. So what was innovative about Clearco is finding a way to avoid that trap. We do that by providing revenue-based finance and not asking for collateral. If you're not raising equity capital, you're typically raising debt capital. Often when businesses raise debt capital, the borrowers, say it's a traditional bank, they want a lien in your assets, right? So the business's assets would be liens. Or they want a personal guarantee from the owner or founder. That could be very challenging for someone to get comfortable with. Our revenue-based finance product doesn't have you giving up equity in your business, and it doesn't have you pledge collateral or agree to a personal guarantee. That's really differentiating for Clearco in this form of financing.
It almost sounds unreal sometimes. I'm sure you and your team might hear, and it really enables these entrepreneurs to scale quickly.
Correct.
Because it's tied to their revenue, and that's how it gets tied in with Clearco, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, these customers, they're quite often inhibited mainly by lack of access to capital. So they haven't been in business long enough, or a traditional bank lender can't move quickly. And a lot of our customers, they want capital fast. They want to raise it, deploy it very quickly. And so traditional bank financing markets, they don't work for them. They're not open to them. And so that's why this idea was so revolutionary and remains revolutionary.
We're sitting here in Collision. There's a lot of
new technology. AI is the buzz. I'm curious, how are these new technologies, these new innovations impacting the funding?
I think I was on a panel earlier today
Yeah.
called the Venture Winter, and talking about basically the retraction of venture capital firms from investing in startups. Of course, AI remains very attractive, and so there's lots of investment going into AI, and you'll see that obviously in these markets. One year it might be fintech, next year it might be Web3. Now it's AI or climate tech or whatever the case may be. Those just reflect cycles where VCs are deploying their capital. For Clearco, AI and machine learning based models, that's always been a part of our business, right? Especially with regard to how we manage risk and extend credit to our customers. So like the core piece of what we do is we need to understand a customer's creditworthiness. Like we'd love to be able to fund every entrepreneur in the world who has a good idea or thinks they have a good idea, but probably not the wisest thing. We need to make sure that these customers that come to us, that they have the capacity and wherewithal and expertise in running their business so that they can pay us back the capital. And I think that's really been one of the things we've learned over the last couple of years is Clearco's mission is to serve these customers, right? We love serving our entrepreneurs. We love being the fuel for their growth. But if you don't do it in a sustainable way, then Clearco won't last. So the idea of finding the best kinds of these customers that can take capital and return the capital, and then we give it to them again and they keep growing their business, that's really the promised land for us.
It's really interesting, and I'm curious, when you are looking for these right customers, how do the founders find out about these opportunities? Because I assume a lot of founders go the traditional routes.
Correct.
And maybe it's part of your mission, and if you want to talk about it, is like getting this more in front of this.
Correct.
There's this opportunity.
Yeah, I think it was harder a couple of years ago. Really, when Michelle and Andrew started Clearco, they were really very effective at proselytizing for what we were doing, right? And so they were very good at saying, listen, this is revolutionary. This is something different. You don't have to give up your business. Now, the market is more crowded now. It's more competitive. And I think that founders, like if they're looking, they can find revenue-based finance.
Yeah.
It may take them time, right? When they first start, they're like, okay, what are my financing options? I could go raise equity. I could give up ownership in the business, or I'll call my local banker. He's going to say no. And then ultimately, like maybe it's a windy path, but at some point they come to revenue-based finance for their businesses. And then again, we started the category, but there are others there now, and we compete with our peers to make sure that we're finding the best customers to extend capital to.
And I'm assuming from the customer base that Clearco has now, some maybe hearing about a more word of mouth as well now, and the experience that they're having, and it's extending that way as well.
Yeah, word of mouth is critical for what we do. So we're constantly, when we develop good relationships where we're repeatedly funding customers, we love it when they tell their peers, right? They tell their other DTC e-com founders, listen, you should speak to Clearco because the product is simple to understand. It's very fast. It has a lot of utility. We don't hide any of the costs of the product. All those things are very important to entrepreneurs who are trying to grow their business. So we love it. We love word of mouth, and we're always looking for ways to get the word out there about Clearco.
That's amazing. What does, quote, working capital in the hands of all e-commerce startups, end quote, mean for the future?
If you can achieve that, it means a lot of entrepreneurs and founders with great ideas, great products, great services being able to achieve their dreams, right? So that to us, that's why we get up in the morning, is we want to find customers who have great ideas and great businesses who need our capital to really supercharge their growth. So that is really our North Star. It's always been our North Star from when Michelle and Andrew founded the business years ago to today. The question is just how do you organize to do that?
This being the Business Leadership Podcast, we talk about leadership, management. Specifically, I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges you're facing now?
Yeah, so for Clearco, kind of the second half of 2022 and most of 23 was a period of extraordinary transition and some challenging times. We had expanded very aggressively overseas. We started to experience a little bit of stress in our business in mid-22. The founders pivoted the product to a new product, which is an extraordinary product that's made all the difference for the business called Invoice Funding. All of those things happened in the 2022-2023 timeframe. we completed a very complicated recapitalization, but now we're back to running the business. So running the business today means we're rescaling it, right? We're going out and we're originating more advances to our customers, because in order for Clearco to be profitable, we need to have sufficient scale. For instance, I was asked on the panel today, is profitability and scaling or revenue growth, do they work together or are they counter to one another? And for Clearco, they fit perfectly. In order for us to achieve profitability, we need to sell enough units, to put it simply. So we need to make enough advances so we're covering all of our fixed cost base. And so what we're constantly trying to do is find great customers, make sure they get capital, make sure that capital comes back to us so that we can extend it again to them or to new customers.
Andrew, what is your vision of the future that Clearco is building today?
Yeah, so what Clearco is doing after a period of like very rapid growth and very rapid expansion and the pursuit of a lot of different business activities and strategic objectives is we have really become focused on one product and one geography. So the product is the invoice funding product and the geography is the United States. So we've retracted from Western European markets. We were doing things in Australia. We've retracted from that. And so today for us, it's rigor and it's discipline and it's fact-based analysis and running the business so that we can get to profitability. Now, once we get to profitability, what do we want to do?
Yeah.
We want to find new and interesting ways to serve our customers because in an ideal world, we're expanding our products. We're entering adjacent markets. And what we do really well, we believe, is we understand risk really well. We understand credit really well. And we have a very powerful risk engine. And when that engine, over time, it becomes more and more developed and more sophisticated, we believe we can aim that risk engine at other markets. And we can use that risk engine to develop other products. So that's what's really interesting to us a couple of years out. But today, one product, one geography, and just a lot of discipline, blocking and tackling, one foot in front of the other to get to profitability.
Yeah, and what's interesting from the story and the timelines is creating the category,
Yes.
right? And then retracting. That's a very unique story and
Sure.
where we're going. And then what happens when you hit that vision of winning that region again?
Yep.
Do you see yourself going wide again?
I think what Clearco did sometimes in the old days was they wanted to be a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And part of that, again, it relates to some of the questions that I was asked on the panel today.
Yeah.
Part of that was just, that was the market we were in. And VCs were making investments and they were expecting very rapid growth. And that growth was sometimes at all costs and it was undisciplined. And it wasn't always sensible. Now, it's very hard, I think, to criticize founders, whether of Clearco or anyone else, for pursuing growth at all costs because they were being rewarded for it, rewarded with a lot of VC raises at ever-increasing valuations. But today, and this goes to your question about retraction, today they're being rewarded for something different. And you're being rewarded for discipline, efficiency, running your businesses leanly, and being highly focused. That is the market we live in today, and that's what we're doing.
You keep coming back to the North Star that you're focused on, both for your employees and for how you're attracting customers. Yes. How did you come to that?
So I think the North Star, as far as serving our customers, it's always been there. That's not my idea, right? That was Andrew and Michelle's idea from day one. And I think that they saw this really, Michelle talks about it all the time. She saw this really interesting problem where she just saw business owners who had great ideas and were hustling and trying to make things work, often being put in positions where they had to give up ownership and equity in their business. And I think she and Andrew looked at it and said, wait a second, maybe there's a different way to get them capital that's not so punitive, where they're not giving up ownership. So that North Star's always existed. Now, the internal North Star, the way I talk about it with our employees and the way I want all of our employees to think about it is, if that's our external North Star, right? That's what we want to do in the market. The best way for Clearco to do that is to be disciplined, because you have to be sustainable. You've got to get to a place where you're profitable if you want to continue to satisfy that North Star of serving these entrepreneurs. If you can't do it in a profitable, sustainable manner, then you're not going to be able to continue to do what you want to do for your customers. That to me is like the big lesson of the last 18 months or 2 years in this change in markets that we've seen.
And then when they saw that missing in the marketplace and decided to fill it,
Yes.
did, like, in building that category, Were they evangelizing the category or their product, or how did they go?
I think one of the reasons there are new entrants and we have peers today is because they were so effective. Right. So they were very good at doing it. They're still very good at doing it. And maybe in some ways it wasn't that hard because it was such a great idea. And I think people would look at it and be like, oh my God, this is a new way for me to access capital that didn't exist before. And so Michelle, Andrew, they proselytized very effectively. And then, of course, other people looked at it and said, oh, maybe I should try that too. I can duplicate what Clearco's doing because it's such a great idea.
And so then this retracting, are you just harvesting in the category, or is there a vision further as to where you go next?
I think as we've come out of the recapitalization, first of all, we never stopped originating advances to our customers, maybe for a month in summer of 2022, but we were originating throughout the recapitalization process. Now we're just doing it at greater scale. And yes, to your point, we're going back to customers that maybe they left us for a little while. Now we're re-engaging them. And the way we're able to re-engage them successfully is it's the product. It's the invoice funding product. People love the product. They love the clarity of it. They love the speed with which they can access the capital. And that's really what distinguishes us. And so of course, we're always building new customer relationships. That's very much a big focus of ours, but we love the fact that we can serve old customers as well.
Oh, very cool.
And in this environment where people are very much capital constrained, it's more important than ever, right? Rates are high. Credit's not easy. Money's not cheap anymore.
Yeah.
And so for us to be able to say, listen, we're rescaling, we're growing our customer base again, it's exciting and our customers need it.
Oh, that's a great vision to carry forward and keeping everyone engaged
of course.
in it.
It's great. I love the fact that we are rescaling and we're re-engaging our old customers and we're finding new customers. And like I said, a year out, we're finding new products. Because when we interact with our customers, we have one product today, but sometimes we talk to them and it spurs ideas, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wait a second, what if we did this? Maybe it has different payback features, or maybe it's a longer tenor product so that they know they have the capital for a longer period of time. It could be myriad things, but that's what really excites me is, okay, what can we do for our customers in the future that we can't do today? Because what we do for them today is extremely valuable, but there are other ways to serve them, and I'm excited to find those ways.
Oh, awesome vision. Thank you.
Andrew, before we let you go, I'd love it, as always, we like to ask our guests if you have any final thoughts, advice, recommendations to the business leaders, execs, or founders who are listening today.
Yeah, I think that for me, in this current environment, I focus on two things: running the business and encouraging our employees to run our business with a lot of discipline and a lot of rigor and a sense of urgency, because it is a challenging time for a lot of businesses. It's a challenging time for people in our sector. It's a challenging time for our customers. And I think the way that you serve these customers successfully is you run your business with a ton of discipline. The other thing I think I've learned over the last couple of years is communicating to your employees in a clear and transparent and succinct way and being very honest with them is what makes the difference. You have to be clear with your employees and you have to be frank with them, especially during periods where markets are disrupted. And if I think back to the recapitalization process last year, I became CEO in January. When I became CEO, we had this recapitalization in front of us. We were telling employees we think we can do it by April. We did it in October, right? So what did that mean? That meant every month we would convene the employees and we would tell them where we were in the recapitalization. And so what we were doing was we were being very detailed, like we were giving them lots of facts and we were being extremely clear and transparent with them. And sometimes the news wasn't particularly optimistic or favorable, but then you brought them along and they're like, okay, we're going to hang in there. The employee is saying, I will hang in there, because he's standing up in front of me. He's committed. I can tell he's committed. Other members of management are committed. I can see that. It's palpable to me. And they're being extremely frank with me. So I know where I stand, and I'm going to hang in there, and I'm going to support my fellow employees. I'm going to support Clearco. And ultimately, I'm going to support the customers, because, again, that's our North Star. So those are like two things that I always come back to when I think about the last couple of years at Clearco.
That's amazing. Thank you for joining us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Amazing.
That's it, Biz Leader. Thank you for joining me on this special episode of the Business Leadership Podcast, part of our Future Narrator mini-series recorded live at the Collision Conference This conversation with Andrew was amazing. Exploring Clearco's innovation approach to financing and his insights on sustainable growth and leadership. For links to all the resources we discussed, to connect with Andrew, and to learn more about the Future Narrative Project, please do slide into the show notes within the app that you're listening to right now. And by the way, if you are interested in reading more about Andrew and the other amazing business leaders that we profiled, join the waitlist for our upcoming book. If you found value in this episode, please do subscribe, rate, and share it with the first person who comes to mind that could benefit and be grateful from hearing from you. Your support means everything. It helps us grow and it empowers us to create more great content. Thank you again for tuning in and being part of the community. Until next time, have a 100x day.